Right, let's crash on then. Contrary to popular belief, actually, given the conversations we've been having so far, I'm actually not particularly high maintenance at all, and I quite like camping, and I can fish and build things and fix stuff. So it's all part of the networking facade that's a little bit amusing. But anyway, so social media. If we dive into a little bit about me, I'm sure you probably don't need any more of me, but we'll have a little look at some of some of the history of Sam, and then we'll dive into the company. So that's my new puppy. Isn't she adorable? Her name's Piper, and she's very pretty and very lovely. Lovely old photograph there, just to show you how old I actually am. That's me in the bottom left-hand corner. Look at those hairstyles, aren't they incredible? A little bit of high school, me and my other half, Luke, and awards that we were at last year with some of the team, and me and my previous incarnation as a presenter at Sunshine Radio with two members of S Club 7, which was a great day because I loved S Club 7. Anyway, that's pretty much all you need to know about me. So our ethos, liberating businesses through supportive and flexible digital marketing innovation. Now, what this looks like in practice is in terms of where we sit in the market of social media agencies. Now, there are thousands of different ways that a social media agency can present itself. We like to place ourselves sort of smack bang in between the mentality of a freelancer versus the mentality of a full service agency. So our price point sits very much toward the freelancer end of the scale. But the service that we can offer as an agency is closer to the full service agency. What this means is that when you start working with us, first of all, our price point is built around wholesale white labeling, which I'll move into a little further on in this presentation. You will receive your own dedicated account executive. So it's a little bit like you've hired a social media person yourself specifically for your company. You deal with one person. They are your main point of contact. They are the creative mind. They are the strategic mind, and you don't get passed from person to person. So you always have that one main point of contact. Obviously, if there is the need for something over and above that, we have a senior team, and then we also have myself. So there are a few sort of levels in the hierarchy, but primarily you will deal with one individual. So we're a preferred white label supplier for, it's around 50, it might be a little more than that now, but around 50 marketing agencies in the UK. And what this looks like in practice is this could be an SEO agency, it could be a web designer, it could even be a print publication, or a VA, something like that. Any company that has the conversation around, can you manage and develop my social media channels? Now, most of the other agencies out there that focus on things like SEO and web design, social media is one of those activities which is high time, low value, the nicest way possible. And most agencies don't really want to get involved in it too much because it is a hassle. There is a lot of touch points with the client. There is a lot of work involved. And the expectations placed on social media are often enormous. So meeting those expectations is never an easy thing to do. So therefore, these agencies come to us. Now, we've been white labeling for various agencies now for almost 7 years. So we've got the process down. We've got the system down. All of those little irritating little niggles that can happen around communication and various problems here and there, they've all been ironed out over the last 7 years. So we know exactly what we're doing. As an agency, we're definitely not a fledgling anymore. We work with around 650 clients. Around the world, there are 6 countries that sort of pop up as obvious places where we have sort of hotspots of clientele, and we have 26 account executives in the team, which means that we have got a lot of experience. There's quite a few different age brackets within the team. I think, unfortunately, I'm at the top of that at 34, but we've got account executives from the age of around 20 up to me, and a lot's changed in the last 14 years in the world of social media. So having people across that spectrum is really important. You can see our growth here. So back in 2016, I had 5 jobs and a laptop, and I had 4 clients, and I was working from my kitchen table, and it was an immensely difficult and stressful but really fun time. And I was working a good 100 hours a week every week for quite some time in order to get this agency off the ground, because I started this with absolutely zilch, zero startup capital. So I had to work whilst I was building it. And as you can see, I've not added 2024 onto this because we've only just started. But at the point that this presentation was made in 2023, we had around 560 clients and the same number of account executives that we have at the moment. If we move on to results, What's On in Kent, actually, that was an interesting client of ours, one of those sort of What's On apps. And as a result of the social media work that we did with them, they were nominated for the Creative Digital Award at an award scheme in Maidstone. I don't think they won, but they certainly wouldn't have got the nomination without what we were doing for them. NP10 logs, interesting one. They were managing their own socials historically, not doing a particularly good job of it. I think the most leads that we brought across in a 2 week span was around 36. But for those guys, that's an enormous return on investment for what they pay us. Andy Williams, a tree surgery firm based out of Hereford, they were using their socials to occasionally post a picture of a tree once every 6 months and then hope for the best. We started looking after it. It's been a good few years now, but they can, I imagine that they have probably paid for our service for around, it's probably up to about 2 years at this point in terms of what they're getting from it, because obviously the service that they offer, the value of that service is considerably higher than what they pay this agency, and they get a lot of leads, so they're rolling in it as far as return on investment is concerned. And similarly with that cleaning firm at the bottom there, they paid for our services for 2 months with just one lead from their socials. So that was pretty good. If we have a little look at the team, there's been a little bit of chop and change in this, but fundamentally that is the majority of the team as it stands. We're a very, very close team here. We've got a really, really good working culture. And although in the last 6 months or so, I've had to make a couple of less than friendly decisions around the staffing in order to maintain quality and ensure that the agency remains a profitable entity, the team's been very much on side with that. And I think I'm very lucky to have developed a team of people that all seem to be able to sing from the same hymn sheet. And yes, we have our stresses and strains, but fundamentally everyone's on side, which is really, really important, especially when we all work in an office together most of the time. So I'm just going to dive into the white label information. So the way that white labeling works is we manage the entire relationship. So probably the best example of this is an agency that we partner with up in Manchester. Now, we manage their PPC, so their pay-per-click on Meta, Facebook, and Instagram. So we advertise for social media through this agency. So we're looking for clients, social media clients through this other agency. So as soon as a lead comes in for this client, instead of the agency having to be concerned about learning how to sell social media, what to talk about, and have all of that information to hand, that lead comes straight into our own sales and admin process. So when we pick up the phone, when we have conversations with them, we talk to this prospective client as this other agency, and we take them through their pricing as if we are just, as if So.Social don't exist. Assuming all that process goes well, they then deliver into our admin system, which is just replicated on another email address. And all the other agency has to do is set up a new invoice, because we've managed everything start to finish in terms of the onboarding. Once that's all set up correctly, we then obviously manage all the deliverables, all the client communication moving forward. So for the majority of agencies out there that want to be pretty hands-off in terms of the social media side of the business, this is a really, really good solution for them, because they don't have to get involved unless they want to get involved. Now, obviously, this is usually a situation that crops up after a couple of months, maybe 3 to 6 months of working together where they're involved in the process, because it'd be foolish to assume that an agency would just hand over that information and just assume that we knew what we were doing. But once we prove that case study in a sort of 3 to 6 month period, then we can move on to a slightly more slick and easy solution. Our packages inclusive of the RRP are listed here. So you can sort of see what an agency would be making out of this. So obviously, us selling in at £29 a month, the agency selling in at £225 a month, whatever profit they're making on this a month, once they get to the point at which they don't need to be involved in the process, so they're not spending any of their time on it, it's just pure profit. So for those guys who are involved in this particular system, it's a great little moneymaker on the side. And once we can scale this up to 15, 20 clients, that's a decent amount of money that they can make without having to get involved in the process whatsoever. Here's a couple of the brands that we're working with. There's some really interesting ones on here. Now, obviously, we've got a really substantial client list, but these are just some of, it's just a random cross section. So if you look at the sort of top left-hand corner, just down one, that's Gravels. So they are a national Kia dealership, and we look after all of their sites for Kia, Renault, Dacia, and I think it's just Kia, Renault, and Dacia. But a really good client for us. BDIA down there on the bottom, that is the British Dental Industry Association, very specific. Aeroverse at the top, that is a streaming service based out of Texas, which is specifically for aviation enthusiasts. It's a startup company, massively well funded, but again, really specific, really interesting. And Clever Never Goes down there on the bottom right. That is a community scheme that is being delivered to around 6,000 schools around the UK by the London Metropolitan Police. And it is the 2024 version of Stranger Danger, which isn't really taught in primary schools anymore. Clever Never Goes is the move on from that. So really interesting cross-section of clients there. An ideal referral for us, what we're looking for right now, white label partners is obviously something we want to focus on, because for us, that's one referral that could deliver 15, 20, 50 clients to us if that relationship goes the way we want it to. So any agency within web design, SEO, print, who express that they probably manage a couple of social channels already, and they've established that it takes way too much time and it's not a great deal of fun compared to what they want to be doing. So they want to partner with an agency that they can trust and that they know they can make a bit of money on that relationship. I love trades. Trades are easy. Builders, roofers, driveways, landscapers, plumbers, all of those kind of businesses. Really, really easy referral, and we've got some really good return on investment case studies for those guys. Estate agents, another really good one. There's nothing I enjoy more than browsing through lots of incredibly pretty houses and drumming up interest. And it's one where you can really easily see cause and effect. You know, you post the house, it get loads of interest, it sells, nice and easy. You can see the process. Recruitment is another one. I like recruitment agencies, always really good fun to work with. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam.
No worries.
It's nice to see, I think, the evolution of what's happened with your business, and sort of understand a bit about you, as well as around where the focus is now.
Totally.
So
it's been a fun journey so far, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think the white labeling sort of explanation for me is quite handy, because it's something that people talk about, but they don't necessarily go into detail of what that looks like. So understanding that effectively, you know, it is you answering all the questions, but branding yourself as
exactly.
as
It can be quite flexible, because there are a lot of agencies out there, but we have a conversation about white labeling and they kind of go, well, actually, I kind of want to restructure this into more of a collective or a referral based situation. And we've got a lot of those as well. So I think looking at it like it's one thing can be a little off putting. So it's always good to get in front of these agencies and have a chat, because often the solution can be slightly flexed so that it actually fits what they want to do.
So what questions would, or kind of what things would they be saying that would be a tip off to us that that's, you know, a good time to get you involved?
Typically, like I said, it's agencies who are already managing a few social media channels, but that's not their focus as an agency. The most common referrals that we get into agencies are web designers and SEO. They're the two most common, because those two particular services are really good bang for your buck. You know, you might have a website coming through that's, you know, a week's worth, that's $2.5 grand, $5 grand, 10 grand, whatever it might be. But the conversation always migrates into how are we going to get people to this website? And typically these agencies will have some of their team members that maybe don't have as many web builds on their roster, just kind of trying to strategize and manage socials for clients. And they've established that actually they can't make enough money from that for it to be justifiable for this person to do it. And they're trying to figure out what the solution might be. And I think the idea of a social media white label agency, it's not that we're the only company doing this, but because we built the company around this premise, we're one of the few agencies that can offer you a genuine return on investment, because you can put a really good, you can put some really good profit on top of this and sell it out without too much struggle.
Thank you. Anybody else got a final question? Mike's got a question for Sam.
Yeah, go for it, Mike.
Yeah, excuse my ignorance, mate. I'm a little bit older. So, obviously, what areas do you cover and how do you do it? Because obviously, say for example, you've got a plumber in Essex, or you've got, you know, different areas. And I know you do in America and all this sort of stuff. But how do you promote in those areas? Is it just over the internet, or how does it work?
So that's the question, isn't it? That is the how do you do what you do question. So if you take, let's have a look. We've got a client and they are an IT disposal company, again, based out of Texas. So where we have to start is who's the target market? What is that? What are the customer pain points? What's the customer journey? And where are those people going to be in terms of social channels? So you know, the people that spend 90% of their social media time on LinkedIn are commonly very different to the people that spend that time on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. So we need to look at that target market and establish where are these people going to be spending their time. So for this particular company, they are only interested in dealing with other scalable businesses within the sort of area that they're within Fort Worth and slightly further around Texas. So we know that what we need to be doing is accessing the people within the companies that they want to be talking to, and LinkedIn is the place to do that. So we manage their LinkedIn business profile, but we also manage the account for one of the managing directors of the company. So through his account, we then reach out to the compliance manager or the whomever it might be within these various companies that they want to target, and we start conversations with those people as this guy, and we then push those conversations through to an exchange of details or like an email exchange or whatever it might be. Once that conversation reaches the point at which actually now he needs to take over and start doing the selling, then we pass that information over to him and he carries that relationship on. So in that instance, we can bridge distance without much of a problem, because all we need to do is make sure that we're reaching out to these people 5 hours before we would otherwise be doing it in the UK. Similarly with a plumber in Essex, right? So the chances are that most of your clients as a plumber in Essex are probably going to be on Facebook. They're probably going to be on Instagram. And when they're on Facebook, they're going to be using Facebook groups after about 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the evening, once they finish dinner, once they've kind of got bored of whatever they're watching on Netflix, and now they're getting into the scroll. So we need to make sure that we're getting the right kind of content delivered into those groups at the key times of day, and then making sure that when that client inevitably comes through to Messenger to ask the question, we do with them what the client wants. I love Messenger, but it's a massively inefficient way to be dealing with people. So what you want to be doing is getting them from Messenger into a system which is a little bit more efficient, like a phone call would be the best way to do it. Or we just get them to leave their number, get them to leave their details, and then the client can take it forward from there.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
All right.
Thank you very much, Sam. Yeah, Ian.
Hi, Sam. Right, I put a link on the chat. This site we put live last week. We always get this, but I try to manage their expectations before we build the site, to be honest with you. Yeah. But clearly I failed with this client. But he texted me this morning to say why I'm not on page 1 with such and such a keywords like sports therapy.
Okay, it's quite a common phrasing.
Yeah, I was like, well, your site only went live last week. Anyway, so I may put him in touch with you actually, because he does physiotherapy. So he may do quite well on
do physio, so we kind of
right. Okay, so I'm
industry.
seeing him on Wednesday, so I'll mention him about the social media side.
Yeah, fire him over, because it would be good to understand what he wants, because being at page 1 on Google is one thing, but that's just a thing. That's just being on page 1 on Google. What do you actually want out of it is the question that I have to ask a lot of people, because it's amazing how many customers you talk to that say, I just want to get my name out there. And I have to go, okay, that's fine, but that's just a bollock statement. So let's get down to what you actually want to get out of this, because otherwise you're going to come back to me in 6 months and you're going to say, why am I not selling all of this stuff? And well, 6 months ago, what we said was you want to get your name out there. We didn't talk about anything else. So we need to make sure that at the very beginning, we establish what it is they want.
Thank you very much.
We've done various fixed campaigns through Sam on various areas that we cover with his team. And we've noticed more inquiries coming in and more clients just coming in and giving us instructions in those areas where we've done those campaigns. Now, we can't say it's directly from that, but we're guessing it is, because a lot of it is social media is subliminal, as we know, but the fact that we're getting it and it all relates to the areas where Sam's done the work seems to suggest to us that that's where it's coming from.
Well,
So
interestingly,
we're
we're
actually seeing
moving
the
into
results.
we're moving into some PPC campaigns with you guys now at Propert. So that sort of subliminal side of things will be taken away because you'll be able to measure it right from source, right the way through the process. The person's filled in the form, it's delivered to you. The whole thing will be traceable. So it'll be an upgrade on where you are at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Sam.